Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now, for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only, Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my co-host, PK. PK, how you doing tonight? It is, what is it, September 13th. How are you on the September 13th? We're watching the time fly by.
It's overcast. It's started to sprinkle a little bit, and all I can say is, hooray! Because here in Arizona, here in Tucson, we haven't seen much of that for quite some time.
You got to celebrate that rain. Good.
Oh, God, yes. I'll do a rain dance if I thought it would work longer.
Well, you can have some of our rain, because we have.
I know. You're getting it all. Greedy. That's what you all are. You're taking it all.
Yeah, and now we have the hurricane coming up, which will be very exciting, especially for anybody who has property on the coast. I'm glad we don't, but oh my. So what else is happening besides this natural disaster coming our way?
Well,
what else is
on?
going
The nice thing to take a look at. Tomorrow we have a new moon, and it's a grand trine with the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter. This new moon occurs the day before Mercury retrograde ends. So
yay. That's
a good news. So we are going to experience a change or some important turning points. Now, the aspect between Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter makes this a very good time for making plans, taking charge of problems, and do problem solving, shall we say. This is also one of the best new moons of the entire year, which is a hooray for that one. And be prepared to set your intentions for the new moon. Make your wishes and set them into place, because the odds are when you do that and set good intentions out to manifest what's coming is more than likely to become a very healthy new start. So the Virgo new moon inspires us to be very productive and organized, and that's true with most aspects of our life. And we get a fresh start on something. And because there's a bunch of planets retrograding, as we all know, the connection or correction with this new moon is going to be something that we could expect secrets to be revealed. That one scares me. And you may see people and situations in a different light. But I've got a terrible feeling some secrets are going to be made known that have been kind of hanging over us like a guillotine. Just wait and see what the next couple of weeks are going to bring.
Well, that'll be interesting. Wow, well, that's plenty. That's very good. But that sword of Damocles you're talking about, it'll be interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, so many things are coming to light. And, I mean, just, what was it, yesterday, Mexico had, their Congress had a very large expose on what they knew and what they know about aliens and UFOs. And I can only imagine that our shadow government is probably tearing their hair out now because they actually revealed these alien bodies, right? Well, this, I'm sure, is making our government and our shadow government just turn apoplectic over the whole thing. So wait till they start talking about the abductees in other countries, because that's something that our people here don't want to touch that one with a 10-foot pole.
God, no, we can't even touch our own, Kevin.
No.
Everybody's afraid of it.
Well, they're afraid for, I think, some reasons that shouldn't be ignored. I mean, all of this has gone on for so long and been denied over and over again. But we know the truth. You and I, we've been at it for how many years? 30, 40 years? So we know what's been going on. Yep. And we don't need anybody to, tell us, because we know.
We've
but the
been
details.
Aware of it long enough.
Yeah.
We've been aware of it long enough.
We may not know all the.
Yeah.
We may not know all the details, but we have a good idea of what's been covered up. So, and speaking of cover-ups, we've got a lot to talk about tonight with our incredible guest, Candice Bradstreet. We're going to be talking about GcMAF. Now, I could have titled this show "A Doctor, a Cure, and a Murder," because that's what happened here. I mean, this is serious stuff. You know, anytime anybody interferes with somebody else making money, it can become very, very dark. And we're going to hear the whole story from Candice herself.
Yep.
Yeah, it can be very dangerous, and we've certainly seen a lot of that. We've heard a lot about this kind of thing, and now we're going to get it firsthand with Candice and the remarkable work that she's been doing with GcMAF. Now, I'm just going to tell you right up front what it is. GcMAF is a protein-derived macrophage activating factor. That's what it is. It's a protein that is naturally produced by the body and plays an important role in the healthy functioning of the immune system, and especially in activated macrophage, the white blood cells that protect against cancerous cells, bacteria, and foreign substances. Now, all of this is really important information, and maybe the very first time that you in the audience are hearing about this. So basically, the GcMAF theory postulates that people who are in immunocompromised positions have low levels of the protein and are more susceptible to cancer, multiple sclerosis, and other systemic conditions. And as you all know, we may be great at emergency medicine, but we're not great at chronic illness. Now, cancer cells produce an enzyme called nagalase that shuts down macrophage activity. And so the typical cancer patient has high levels of nagalase and low levels of GcMAF. Now, the discovery of GcMAF, it was the work of Dr. Nobuto Yamamoto, a biophysicist who announced his discovery in 1991 while working at Hahnemann Medical College in Philadelphia. Now, Candice has been in the natural health field for over 20 years, and her passion is empowering people to take control of their own health so that her services are not needed. So Candice believes the body has amazing healing capabilities and assists and guides those when needed. And Candice sees her job as one of listening and assisting patients in overcoming obstacles. And her desire for natural health began while working with her brother-in-law, the late Dr. Jeff Bradstreet, at his International Autism Center in 1997. Now, Candice continued her education by attending Trinity Natural School of Health, where she earned her Certified Clinical Nutritionist Degree. So, Candice, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's totally our pleasure. PK and I have been talking about this all day. We've got so excited to have you on. And for very good reason, because we are in alignment with you in terms of encouraging people to take the reins when it comes to their own health care. But this started for you and with a very different direction. So if you could, please start at the beginning with your work with Dr. Bradstreet and then the incredible tragedy that befell the entire family over this.
Sure. So like you had said, it was back in 1996 is when my husband and I had moved to Florida. And at that time, Matthew, which is Jeff's son, he was around 4 years old. And we had just moved down there, and I started working for Jeff. And Jeff actually, he had been an emergency doctor at a hospital. Then he had worked as a family practitioner and a medical doctor. And when we moved there, he really started getting into natural health. And he started seeing patients and treating them in a more natural way. with natural supplements. And so I wound up being his assistant. And while we were down there, though, is when Matthew was diagnosed. It was probably only a year after we were there. And he was vaccine injured. And, you know, I always say that pain drives passion. And so for Jeff, him wanting to heal his son became his passion, you know, and obviously it stemmed out of pain, out of, you know, losing their child to this. So he literally turned his entire practice into us seeing parents of children with autism. And Jeff at heart was a researcher. That's what he loved to do. In fact, he probably would have loved that more than being a medical doctor. And he honestly was brilliant. He was one of those guys that, I don't know what you call those people that can like look at a page and they digest it. I forgot the name. Very, very fast. That photogenic type thing, memory.
Photographic memory.
And
he had that.
Thank you. And so he was also a pioneer in what he was doing. And why I say this is because he thought outside of the box. He looked to other countries for things that you could use and repurpose, if you will, and how they could help children with autism. So he wound up opening up the International Autism Research Center. And at that time, he honestly was the only doctor treating autism the way that he was. And what I mean by that, again, is thinking outside the box. He was using IVIG. He was using secretin. He was using, you know, all of these things that, again, you know, they're not FDA approved, but they weren't harmful. And so we would have literally
well, and let me
people
just
come.
say, these things aren't FDA approved for that purpose, but there's many things that are being used off-label. So he was using these things like many doctors do. There are medications that are approved, but it's an off-label use, right?
Absolutely. Yes, it's kind of like what we do now with our GcMAF protocols. We're using ivermectin and Fen-Ben because those are now, you know, they're repurposed drugs. And they are approved, but they're not approved for cancer. So we would have people come from all over the world because it quickly, news got out that he was having success in his treatment. So he would also have doctors come, and they would basically internship with him because he would teach them, and he would want them to take it back to their country. And what my job was is I did all of the intakes for when the parents came for help with their children. And back then, as we know, there wasn't, you know, Google, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't cell phones like we have them now. And instead, you know, we had the videotapes back then. And I'll never forget, literally every parent's story was exactly the same. And and back then, it's changed since then because of the vaccine schedule. Back then, the story was my child was hitting all their milestones, walking, talking, doing great. And mind you, I saw the videos. I saw the actual before and afters. And they got their 15-month MMR. And every parent described it this way: that is when I lost my child. And what they mean by that is, you know, they'd call their name. They wouldn't even know that they're there. It's really in the eyes, just that they're gone almost. And so my whole thing to this is when, you know, now you'll hear people say, oh, no, it wasn't that, and they're just making this up, or, you know, it's not the vaccines. And my response is always, please tell me what these parents have to gain. They do not get reimbursement for treatments. The insurance covered nothing. Most of the time we saw the parents get divorced due to the stress. These parents have nowhere for their adult children to go. What do they have to gain? And more importantly, you cannot sue the vaccination manufacturers, the pharmaceutical companies, because they are exempt. There is the National Vaccine Injury Court, and they have to date paid over, I believe now, $7 billion in vaccine injuries, but we, the taxpayers, pay that. That is not paid by any organization or company. And to prove your case, it's almost impossible. Like the ones that did it, it's amazing that they even got compensation. So when I was working with him, obviously, I started just really diving into the natural medicine type stuff. And even prior to moving down there, I was already having this bent toward that, but I certainly was a sponge around him because he just, again, he was a pioneer in what he did. He didn't just stay within this box of typical treatment. And the thing of it is that, after his death, all the articles, the media went on their campaign to destroy who he was and, said he was a quack and all these things. I have to tell you, Jeff would not do anything until he researched it. He was very particular on that, very specific. So we knew it was going to be a smear campaign, but he at heart was a researcher and did a lot of conferences, traveled all over the world doing conferences, and he just kept pursuing finding the cure for autism. And it wasn't until the last Autism One conference, which Autism One is one of the largest conferences where all the doctors go to, and they present all their new findings, their new medical protocols and approaches. And Jeff at that point was always, one of the top speakers. And at the last one, he had said, we are this close to a cure. And he was referencing GcMAF. And he did talk to my husband and I about GcMAF many months prior, and he was like, it's immunotherapy. It's incredible for cancer, for autoimmune disorders. And so we knew about it. However, he wound up working with David Noakes. And David Noakes is the gentleman that owned First Immune, and he produced pure GcMAF. Well, the big deal about Jeff using GcMAF is it was never, ever used for autism. And he used it on, I think it was 100 of his patients, and he was having an 85% recovery. And
wow, that's so high.
It is very high. But I do want to preface it with this because, I do consultations with parents for children with autism. I do want to say it isn't just GcMAF, though, okay? It's a combination of things that work synergistically together, meaning, with his patients, he was taking care of parasites, heavy metals, methylation issues, genetic disorders. So I don't ever want anyone thinking we believe GcMAF is just, the one cure that you do. Right. Because that's not possible. It's not true. Yes. Are there great recovery stories? Absolutely. There is. But he did have huge success with it. And it was literally a month after that when he presented that at Autism One in May of 2015. In June of 2015, he was murdered.
Oh, my God.
God.
Oh, so heartbreaking. And, let me interject here for a minute, Candice, too, because it's possible members of our audience don't know this. Many people don't. But, when your doctor is giving you antibiotics and they're selling a lot, basically is what it is, selling a lot of antibiotics for the pharmaceutical companies, sometimes the pharmaceutical companies will reward them with a trip to Cancun for a seminar or something like that. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to chemotherapy is in a class by itself. It is the only treatment that I've been told that doctors actually get a cut of. So there is money to be made like crazy with chemotherapy. And now, because I'm saying this now because I know we're going to be talking about cancer and GcMAF too.
Yeah.
So the whole medical system needs to be changed. We all know that. We've got a very sick system. It's based on sickness. The pharmaceutical companies profit tremendously when they get to continue to medicate patients for their entire lives. That's a big bonus. So cures aren't high on the list for anything, and certainly not for autism, not for cancer, and now not for autoimmune either. So I just wanted to interject that the profit margin is incredibly high for a lot of those treatments, those drugs. And I'm not against drugs. There's a lot of great drugs out there that can help, and a lot of repurposed drugs like ivermectin and Motegrity, and drugs like that are incredibly miraculous when used for other purposes. But there's just the system breakdown is profound, and certainly what happened to your brother-in-law is more than tragic. So tell us about that. What actually happened to him?
So what happened it was June 17th, and that was the day actually. I'm sorry, June 19th is when he was murdered, and then June 17th, his office was raided by 14 DEA agents, and he was in Georgia at the time. That's where his office was that he was practicing. And I do have to back up that we found out prior to this that I'm not going to mention a name because I try to stay under this person's radar as well. There was a person in another country that just relentlessly harassed him, and this person clearly worked somehow with the government system because the pull that this person had over here didn't make sense. You shouldn't be able to get the authority over here to do anything. And she was just relentless and in pursuit of stopping him. And a lot of people speculate she was paid, informant, troll, whatever you want to call them. Well, she basically took credit for getting the agents at Jeff's office. And we have the warrant, and the warrant specifically was looking for GcMAF. So that was in June. But back in January of 2015, the FDA declared that doctors could no longer give GcMAF in their office, the treatments, and they could not ship it cross state lines. And so Jeff immediately did stop because Jeff was not unaware of the government. I mean, he testified in court about vaccines. The FDA came down on him over, I think it was IVIG or secretin, and it's not like he was stupid. He wanted to continue doing what he knew he was called to do, and so he listened. In January of 2015, they stopped, and I actually confirmed this with a lot of his patients that I talked to. They could no longer get it. Right. So they came looking in June. And it was specifically GcMAF. They raided his office. They took everything off of his computers. But they didn't close him down. They didn't take away his license. None of that happened. So then comes Friday, and sometimes people have asked, so Tom, my husband Tom, is his younger brother, and Jeff was always protecting him. In fact, he would always refer to Tom to all of his colleagues or people, my baby brother. And so he didn't even let us know what was going on, but I know why. I know that Jeff would never involve us in anything that he thought was dangerous. And so we found this out after that on Friday, and, this is where it's really difficult. because we only got the story from his wife at the time, and that was not the mother of his children. His wife, Lori, who he had Matthew and Elizabeth with, we are still incredibly close to. It was his wife at the time, Jennifer. They had only been married probably a year and a half, 2 years. And so they were going to meet up at Lake Lure Inn. This is the story that we're told, and there's a reason I'm saying it that way. They're going to meet up at Lake Lure Inn. She claims he wasn't really freaking out about it. Of course, he was upset, that the government, again, was trying to get involved, and he just wanted to help people, and, they're kind of trying to put up a blockade. Well, she claims that on Thursday, the night before, she took her son, Aaron, to go stay with his father, who lived in North Carolina. Lake Lure Inn is in North Carolina as well. It's where they did the Dirty Dancing movie.
Oh, okay.
So it's a tourist area. So Jeff gets there. He gets to Lake Lure Inn, and they said that his room was not ready, and they claim that he did appear, somewhat anxious, agitated, but he said, okay, I'll come back, and he went to a store. He had gotten, I don't know, I think it was hummus and like a bottle of wine or something, and the next thing that happened is he drove to, it's called Chimney Rock, and it is an area which we didn't know it was a tourist area at the time. Okay, and this is why this makes this even more impossible of what they claim happened. Chimney Rock is a place where you can pull off on the side of the road, and there's a really steep embankment, and then there's this beautiful river, but it's kind of shallow because there's big rocks, there's little rocks. People can fish in there, but it's not some super duper deep river. And so the story goes that he must have gone there because his car was there. And the police say that he shot himself in the river. And I have to tell you how ludicrous it is when you see the spot because, again, people can pull up. The other thing is Jeff had very bad knees, and trying to get down that embankment he would not be able to do. The other thing is there were two fishermen. One of the fishermen found him, and the other one was downstream. No one ever heard a gunshot. No one heard anything. And this is a river where you would have heard it. And so Jennifer claims, she couldn't find him. Her story is very, very odd. She actually told our family members, we got 5 different stories, and we didn't realize it until we all started talking. That's why we started the investigation, because things she was saying were not adding up. And she claimed she went to Lake Lure Inn, and he wasn't there. And actually, the thing, I think there was a lot more going on between them than she has revealed. And the reason I say this is when she got there, her name was not even on the room. That is very odd because we traveled with Jeff for many years with him and Lori, and he always had his wife's name on there. There's speculation they could have been fighting. We're not sure at this point, but something clearly was amiss. And she claims she went driving around, walking into restaurants saying, have you seen my husband, Dr. Bradstreet? And that doesn't make sense because nobody really would know him there. Right. And then, and then she claims she drove up, she saw his car there, and then she was going to go down the embankment to see if he was there, and couldn't because it was slippery and raining. And then the ambulance came because the fishermen called. And what's interesting is, so in one breath, she tells Jeff's daughter that she saw him. She saw him face down. Well, if she saw him face down, then nothing would have stopped me from getting down there if my husband is dead in the river.
Exactly.
She didn't do that. She didn't do that. The fisherman saw her. She was pacing back and forth up on the road. And he wasn't face down either. He was actually face up. And so none of her story was making sense anymore. And that is why we had to open up an investigation on our own. And so his funeral was held in Georgia. And what we did as a family, it was on July 11th. We drove down earlier and went to North Carolina and spoke with the police officer that was in charge of the investigation. They screwed the entire thing up. They are a very small place in North Carolina, and they didn't even take fingerprints off the car. They didn't even bag Jennifer's hands for gunpowder residue. They didn't even match up the bullet to see if it came, because there was a gun near in the river that they found, and Jeff did have a gun. It was a pistol, but here's another telling sign that we believe it was planted, and the only way it could have been planted is from Jennifer, and here's why. They claim there was like a, not a fanny pack, but like a camera, like a camera bag.
Yes.
And it had his initials, and they said that was near him, and that's what he carried the gun in. I'm going to tell you right now, the only person that would put that in a camera bag is somebody that is afraid of a gun, and I know this because I'm not good with guns. My husband was military. He was a Ranger. Jeff was in the Air Force, very well trained on guns. He would have never carried a gun in like a fanny pack bag. It's just ludicrous. And for me, that is somebody that carried it there and wanted to plant it there. And they were never able to match it up with that.
Gosh, so many inconsistencies in this whole horrible, horrible experience for your whole family. I mean, it's terrible because you're a close family, and it impacted everybody in the family. And yes, I really hate hearing how these investigations get screwed up and things aren't done properly to allow people to figure out what happened. But everything you're saying is making perfect sense, that he had no reason to commit suicide. I mean, he really didn't. That's the most important thing. Well,
and here's what's very interesting to us. Number one, Jeff was making plans after this for other speaking arrangements, and he actually mentioned to Jennifer he was probably going to go to Dubai, because in Dubai he could carry on his research and not be harassed. We know this, that he was planning to do that. We have confirmation from I cannot tell you how many people that Jeff did not have the personality to kill himself. Also, I cannot tell you how many doctors chimed in and said, are you kidding me? He was alone in his home on Thursday because Jennifer had left with Aaron. He would have used a less painful way and would have used medication because they have access to anything that they want.
Exactly.
And so when we went to North Carolina, I could not believe it was a tourist stop. I thought it was like deep in the woods and really desolate and you couldn't see anything. And once we got there, we knew that something was terribly wrong. I will tell you, though, the detective already believed the story. He believed the story that the FDA was coming after Jeff. He even said they were going to take his license, he was going to have a fine, and he could never practice again. And, that's why he killed himself. So whoever planned this, I will say, they did a great job because they got the raid to happen the night before to make it look like his life was over. And that was the furthest thing from the truth because we had a very dear friend a very influential man in New York who just helped his grandson that had autism. He contacted us, and he really was a wonderful man through the whole thing. But what he did was he found out what Supreme Court judge signed the warrant. He actually wrote him a letter, and he said, he explained the situation, and he said, and you know, if you were looking to nail Dr. Bradstreet on GcMAF, then you would also still be pursuing his wife because she received shipments in her name as well. And the FDA doesn't care if you die. They're still going to pursue if there's still another person like the wife that, you know, was involved. The Supreme Court judge actually told him, she's like, there is no case against him. There was never a case against him.
Oh, my gosh.
So we don't understand how some podunk, and it really was, I'm not being disrespectful, they were a podunk police station, had that information in a short amount of time, and we even told Detective Keever, that was his name, we told him, we have this investigation, we've raised this money, we can pay for things, because he told us they couldn't get certain testing done because they simply didn't have the funds to do it. And my husband said, we will pay for it. What is it? And it dropped. They never would let us do it.
That is awful.
It is. And it actually kind of gets worse because it was very soon after his death. Oh, wait, I didn't even talk about the coroner. So it happened on a Friday. So it was Saturday that they needed to call in the county coroner. This is where I had mentioned that the coroner that, I'll get to that in a minute. Sorry, that's with Michael Archer, the guy that does the forensics. The coroner didn't even get to see Jeff first because Jennifer got a lawyer, a criminal defense attorney, a friend, kind of lifelong friend in North Carolina, and they flew in a coroner from Florida to do the autopsy.
Oh, that's suspicious. Yeah.
Good Lord.
And then after that, she quickly got him cremated. And that isn't something that Jeff previously, that was not his wishes. Jeff was a Christian, followed the Lord. It's not that he was so much against that. Also, he has a military burial. That was not his preference. She got him cremated, so we can't even resurrect, his body to do anything else.
Right. You can't find any other evidence. Oh, what a shame.
No, but I will say that on the autopsy report, they show that he had, and it wasn't, how does that go? It wasn't post-mortem. This is pre, so they know it was before he died. He had bruising on the inside of your elbows, so imagine somebody behind you holding your arms, in the crook of your elbow, and then he had a lot of scrapes on his legs and on his knee. And what we did for Scene of the Crime, which was a show that they actually did on this, we hired a gentleman named Michael Archer. He's done a lot of 48-hour stuff. He is a forensic analyst. And so what he does is he goes back and kind of like redoes what happened. And he proved that Jeff did not kill himself, because when you kill yourself, there's always a stippling marking from the gunpowder. There was none on his chest. And furthermore, the way that the bullet entered in, it's not possible. And the other thing is Jeff being an ER doctor, he never would have put himself through the pain and misery that he went through with that gunshot wound. It was not a peaceful death.
Right.
And so Michael Archer proved that no, he didn't. And also Michael Archer did an interview. He went and he actually met with the other coroner who actually, had the right to take Jeff's body and do that. She even says that it was one of the most suspicious cases she's had. She's never had another coroner come in and do the job before she did.
It doesn't even sound legal. Yeah, it doesn't even
know.
sound like it's following legal protocol. But that is just horrible, and the whole thing is so suspicious. I mean, there's any number of scenarios here with possibility of the new wife deciding that she was going to get rid of him and then employing the assistance of someone else. They certainly could use the FDA situation and the DEA situation as a cover almost. How horrible. And I mean, that year
is opportunity to show something.
Right. Yeah, destroy everything. So, it just seems, it doesn't seem, it is extremely suspicious, and it is unfortunate, again, that the police department really just fell down on the job. Not unusual, unfortunately, to hear that. But, but you guys really stepped up. I mean, you took charge, and you decided to go ahead and try to find out the truth. Good for you.
Well, and here's the thing that I find very odd also is she was so angry that we were doing an investigation, so much so that I found out because one of his patients that saw him at his clinic in Georgia messaged me and said, I have to let you know that the office has been instructed by Jennifer to not donate to your GoFundMe because she's very mad that you're investigating. Why would you be mad that we are trying to find out what happened? Why are you so adamant that it was suicide when there's no way it was? And third, when she got that criminal defense attorney, we got a call from him to no longer speak to her. And that is why the case remained open, because she refused to answer any questions, because I didn't realize when you lawyer up, you don't have to go in and answer questions. So it became a cold case because you have to have evidence, that she had a reason to murder him. And I asked Detective Heaver, I said, did you even look for a life insurance policy? Did you look into anything? No, they didn't look into anything.
That doesn't even make good sense.
No.
That's
the whole thing was so
terrible.
Yeah, I can't even, it was just roadblock after roadblock. And this is the other thing that is just very curious to me is I remember, so Tom found out very late at night on Friday. He told me when I got up on Saturday morning. And I remember on Monday, because I knew, I had a feeling and I knew the media was just going to have a heyday. I went to Wikipedia. They already had it that he was dead. I don't know how they knew when, I don't know how they knew when a lot of our family still didn't know. His patients didn't know, but the whole entire thing on him changed. And it was demeaning. And that he killed himself and he committed suicide because they did a raid. And that was really concerning to me because that let me know that's not normal.
No, it isn't.
Some system knew. And then we were having calls from everywhere, from all the news stations, radio stations, magazines, all wanting to talk to us, and we just didn't. It was so beyond overwhelming. And then to see the things that they said about him and to know the lies that were in there was very hard, you know, because you want to scream from the mountaintop and say they're lying, just flat out lies. So,
the mainstream media certainly proves that, you know, over time. Since then, we've all come to realize, for the most part, many of us, that mainstream media is nothing but lies. They're just feeding what they've been told to do by the corporation that owns them. And they're bought and paid for. There's no more real news reporting. But the fact that they would go out of their way to do this to Dr. Bradstreet is really telling. And you and I and PK were all talking about the fact that Dr. Bradstreet was the first doctor that was taken out, possibly, by other entities because of his work. And then that whole year and a half later, every time I picked up the newspaper, there's another doctor that's suddenly gone under mysterious circumstances. So there was like this whole thing happening that these doctors are being taken out. So
yes, absolutely. It
again,
was very
weird. The greed that is behind all of this, where, you know, somebody like Dr. Bradstreet is brilliant and he's coming up with these new innovative ways to approach a very serious problem with more and more children being diagnosed with autism every day. And yet he's looking for something that, and then all of a sudden they make sure he's gone. He can't do it anymore. Yeah. So, let me ask you too, his son, Matthew, how is he doing? I mean, did the treatment make a big difference for him? I hope so.
He's doing well. He actually he's 28 now, and he lives on his own in it's called Promise a Village, so it's an adult center, but he has his own job. He, you know, goes out on his own. He has come a long way from where he was, and he's doing well. You know, the sad thing is now that Jeff is gone, though, you know, the continued treatments or protocols or new things, you know, Matthew, he doesn't have, because Jeff really was the one that was pursuing the cure, especially after the results that he saw with the GcMAF. And, you know, again, not everybody's going to respond the same way, though. There's so many variables, meaning how long you wait, when you start addressing these issues. There's just so many variables with these kids and adults now that you can't say, you know, like I always use the term, one man's cure is another man's poison. It doesn't mean it's going to work the same for everyone, because, again, if it did, then it's a miracle and it's a cure. Right. And
this is part of a treatment package from what you described, which makes a lot of sense, because any of these situations, whether it's autism or cancer or autoimmune, they have a lot of tentacles. And so it does have to be a treatment package. But GcMAF is an integral part of that, which is, again, worthy of being explored. Yes.
It absolutely is. And, you know, there's a lot more that has been learned since 2015, such as the whole parasite connection, the mold and fungus issue with these kids. They all work together and, you know, really it helps to cause the issues that it has. It's crazy how all of those things together use one another. So it's very important I call it peeling the onion back. You have to go layer by layer. I have personally, I've had testimonies from parents and grandparents of they interject the GcMAF and they're more verbal. They have more cognitive abilities. They're more aware of other people, and they're more aware of what relationship is. So there's a lot of really good that comes from it. But I do think, and I understand it, that as any parent would, they would want to focus on the full recovery part. But what is imperative about GcMAF and these kids with autism is they have high nagalase levels. And eventually, if you do not get that nagalase level down, it is a setup for cancer down the road. And we know just through medical papers, they've already stated that children with autism have a higher incident rate of possibly having cancer. And it all has to do with nagalase.
Now, you mentioned, because I've been following you on your TikTok channel, which is excellent. I highly recommend everybody should follow Candice on TikTok because you do great question and answer sessions. It's wonderful, wonderful information. So please do follow Candice on TikTok. But you, now I lost my train of thought as I was giving you promotion here. So.
I think I need
GcMAF. I really do.
The last thing it was about nagalase levels in cancer.
You talked about it. Thank you, my dear. You talked about a test, that there's an actual test that people can get and find out what their nagalase level is. So how do they do that?
There is. So on my website, which is www.our-little-white-barn, I have the nagalase testing available, and I did this for a reason because back in 2016 when I started working for the lab, I just assumed, oh, well, every doctor knows what nagalase is, and surely they'll write the script for my clients to get their levels. Well, that is not the case at all. I've personally talked to doctors. They have no idea what I'm talking about with nagalase. So I contacted the lab, which is in New Jersey, and the gentleman that owns it is a Vogler, who he actually wrote a paper with Jeff. He's a wonderful man. I believe he lives in Switzerland, but his American company is in New Jersey, and they so graciously approved me as a practitioner, so I can write the script, and we have the test kit that people can purchase off the website. And for under $200, you can get a good gauge on if you have either, unfortunately, the possibility of cancer or if you have a high viral load, because those are mainly the two things that are going to increase nagalase levels. However, we're seeing now how the parasite thing falls into that too, that they can increase those levels. So it's a fabulous way to find out if your levels are high. And if they are high, which means they're above 0.95, that is when you do seriously want to look at GcMAF, because right now that is the only way you can drive those levels down, because GcMAF reactivates your own immune system. So it goes in, really educates your body again of what it was created to do. Those nagalase levels come down, and you don't need to take it anymore. And that's why I love it. It's not a long-term product. We do say it's a minimum of 3 months because, again, you can't have your body go through what it's gone through and expect it to turn around in a month. That, rarely happens. So minimum of 3 months, and then we take another nagalase level, and if your nagalase levels are down, then you're done.
That's great. Yes. And you mentioned parasites, and I follow all the research for autoimmune disease, and that's something that they have explored with MS. I'm sure you know about this. They did autopsies on MS patients, and they found 100% of them had parasites in their spinal cords and in their brains, because the little things they were seeing on the MRI in the brains of MS patients that they thought were some kind of plaque turned out to be parasites. So this is huge. This is absolutely huge. And when you work with people, since you are a nutritionist and you're trained, are there any, I'm going to ask you this question because everybody's asking me the same question, are there any really good parasite cleanses? There seem to be a million of them out there. Are there any really good ones that you recognize, that you say are the best to use?
So this is interesting because I actually, in the last 2 years, went literally on a deep dive about parasites. I've always known about them. because actually back when my son is going to be 26, but when he was 4 years old, he had a serious case of parasites, and that is how I was also introduced to the Rife frequency machine, which I'm a huge believer in and have used that for 20-some years to get rid of parasites. That is the easiest way to kill parasites. But to answer your question, I started seeing a complete parallel with parasites and what we call cancer. And I'm going to say something that it's hard for people's brains to wrap around because I was there 3 years ago and I didn't believe it until I found all the PubMed papers and read and researched. Parasites are the root of all illnesses. You have to ask yourself why we're told to deworm our animals twice a year and we don't deworm ourselves. You have to ask yourself why during COVID did the ivermectin start clearing up asthma, allergies, rashes. It started clearing up a host of things, and it's because it was killing parasites. So in my private Facebook group, I actually have a Facebook group specifically for this, showing the evidence of it, because I don't want anyone just believing me, that it could just be my words. I back it up with the PubMed papers that are out there that talk about which parasites cause specific cancers, and every single cancer you Google, you can find a parasite that they'll say does and can cause that cancer. When you start looking at, I had to start looking at, so my husband had cancer in 2018. Thankfully, he's cancer-free. Well, it's because I had to start looking deeper than just what we're told cancer is. And for my husband, he had candida and parasites. Once we address those, he literally has had zero issues. And what I did is I cross-referenced all of the herbs that I had him on, all of the supplements, and I kid you not, all of them killed parasites. And
that is terrific. Wow.
Well, and as you've seen, they're repurposing fenbendazole is a repurposed drug for cancer.
That's
ivermectin
right.
it. And now with GcMAF, that's what we do. And so to answer your question, there are incredible herbals and herbal cleanses. However, I started watching and listening to, and he's on TikTok, and I recommend everyone to listen to him, Dr. Lodi. He is an oncologist who I'm so happy has said parasites are the root of cancer, if not what we call cancer. Because other countries, I will tell you, they have said what you guys call cancer, we have known as parasites. They literally create tumors. They create their own blood vessel tumors. And what Dr. Lodi says, and I agree with him, and I'm going to tell you, I always go natural first. However, he says he takes 4 antiparasitics, and he'll keep somebody on that for 3 weeks, break them for a week, possibly put them on again. It just depends how they do. And then you can then go in and use herbs and the herbal cleanses to maintain. So you almost have to wipe the slate clean, and here's why. And I agree with him. Herbs can get and kill worms. It's the worm eggs that they know are what burrow into the muscles, the tissues, the organs. It's those eggs that can then turn into what we call cancer. And those are very hard to get. He has said that those require the antiparasitics. As much as, I wish it didn't, I have to agree with him that if you're just going to, do it the one time and clean the slate and then maintain with cleanses, that's the best thing to do.
That makes sense. I think I've seen him on TikTok also. So you're talking about a program of ivermectin and possibly even hydroxychloroquine, other medications like that actually do get rid of parasites. And then after 3 weeks, you check in, you see if you're ready to go to the herbal remedies or you need another course of those.
Yes,
so that makes sense.
The other thing, though, I will tell you, is my go-to, though, is the Rife frequency machine because frequency kills at a cellular level. And so that's what I've used all these years. And it literally, it's not just for parasites, though. It's Dr. Rife created it for cancer.
Right, so, he did.
Yeah, and his original technology is still, they've really kept it. There's a core group that has kept it, and it's just an incredible thing. And if people are able to get one, you won't regret it. I mean,
what is the cost of a machine now, Candice? Because those can be fairly pricey, but they're in the thousands, aren't they?
They are, but what I did was I was referring people to a wonderful guy. He's a great guy. But then I wanted to make it more affordable. So I contacted the manufacturer and I asked, I said, can I be a distributor? And I was shocked because they actually did. They approved me. And so I sell them roughly $500 to $600 less. So for the unit that I'm talking about, it's $2,095. And that's all you need. And they constantly update with new frequencies. They updated with COVID frequencies. I honestly rarely took my kids, if at all, to the doctor because let's say they had strep throat. I would put them on the machine for a session, and within 24 to 48 hours, they're fine. So it pays
those
for
machines
itself.
are incredible. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in Rife as well. Yeah.
They truly, and there's a ton of knockoffs, though, because I have people ask me all the time, and if you research who Dr. Rife was, he was in the 1920s. He's the original of the frequency machines that we have. I'm not saying other ones don't work, but what I've seen is they nickel dime you. Some are not, they're not as powerful. They're very complicated. But this, I absolutely love it. If it was just for the parasites, I would still use it. Hulda Clark, she really also was a pioneer in that. I will say, though, that because I had gotten one of her zappers, you can't really program them properly. Yeah, they're not powerful enough.
They're not. I didn't experience anything with it either.
Yeah. And I will say, though, the herbal cleanse there's one there's a couple going around on TikTok. I agree with the Amish. I think they do the wormwood, the black walnut, and there's another herb in there. And I'm hearing incredible things that, people are passing worms. So if you use that to maintain, I think that's the best thing that you can use.
Well, this is so helpful, Candice. It really is. I mean, you're giving us such great information, and it's leading-edge information. I mean, this is the stuff that gets rid of the problem, gets rid of what's causing these issues.
It does.
But let me ask you a question, because with autoimmune disease, you obviously don't want to excite the immune system. You want to modulate it. Now, with GcMAF, from what I understand, GcMAF has the ability to do both. It can increase the effectiveness of your immune system so that your own immune system can recognize and get rid of cancer cells, or it can modulate your immune system. Is that true? It can do both?
It can. I have never seen it overstimulate, and in fact, so after Jeff died, I had a wonderful lady contact me who she developed a cream of GcMAF. She had actually worked with David Noakes, and she sent it to me. And I'm going to be honest, I'm very skeptical. I think people think I'm not because I'm in the natural world, and they think it's sometimes this woo-woo stuff. But I'm very skeptical, and I told her, I said, I am not going to represent anything until I try it. She sent it to me. At that time, I had Hashimoto's. Jeff diagnosed me actually in 95. So I had it for some time there, was on Armour thyroid, the whole deal. Never felt well, though. The medicine never, solved the issue. I used that cream, and I have been off of my medication since 2016.
Wow.
That's unheard of, because with Hashimoto's, I had to do baseline testing, and when they would take me off medication, I tanked. It was very bad. So that I know that GcMAF reactivated my immune system so that I could deal with the virus, which that's another thing people don't realize. Your organs do not just decide to stop at all. That is a lie that doctors say. They told me, oh, your thyroid just decided to quit. It burned itself out. It never made sense to me. And it's because I had viral issues. I had the chickenpox varicella virus. And I took GcMAF, and like I said, it's been that long since I've been off of medication. So
that's fantastic.
For me, did it kind of, when I did the cream, I will say I had a day where I probably had a Herxheimer response. I had a fever, very tired, nothing I couldn't handle, though. If it meant that it basically fixed my Hashimoto's, I would take it all day long. And the other great thing about GcMAF is, just let's say somebody is ultra sensitive, we pull it back. You don't do the same dosage. You pull it back, and then you go very low and slow, because my whole thing is it's safer to go low and slow, because healing's going to happen. It's just you don't have to rush it necessarily and cause horrible Herx reactions or overstimulating somebody.
Exactly. Well, now GcMAF comes in many different forms, right? You have the cream. I mean, I know you don't personally sell it, but there's a cream. There's years ago when I first tried it, we made a yogurt with that culture.
So that is Bravo, which Bravo is something that Jeff actually was going to have us manufacture, because he was with Dr. Ruggiero at the time. I'm going to tell you, Bravo is not equivalent to GcMAF at all, no matter what they say. It's a great probiotic, but it is not on the same level as GcMAF. I know he claims that, Ruggiero, but actually I wanted to tell you this, because I'll forget. Our lab is actually going to be doing third-party testing. They're taking our GcMAF against all the other ones that are out there to prove our efficacy and our potency.
Terrific.
Because it is terrific, and there's a reason why. There's a lot of people out there that have come up with GcMAF, and we just want to show, what you're getting, because there's a lot that are not. The efficacy and the potency is not there. The lab that I'm with does not have creams yet, but I'm very excited to say they are making one specific for cancer and autism, and that's never been done before. I was with another company a few years ago, but I'm no longer. So right now what we have are injectables, and they made sprays specifically for autism, for kids who didn't want to do the injectable.
What about for autoimmune? Because I have a huge network of autoimmune patients, and they're going to ask me about this. Do you have a GcMAF, or is it just a general GcMAF treatment for autoimmune?
Absolutely, yes. That's what we deal with mainly, is cancer, autism, and autoimmune.
And what format would that take? Would that be like a sub-Q injection? Would it be an oral capsule? Which one?
We have the injectable, and then they also have these sublingual spray. There's a mouth spray and a nose spray. However, the vials, we call them vials, those are the injectables. Those are, of course, are going to be much stronger and more potent.
Right. Yes. Yes.
However, I mean, their sprays are, pretty effective too. But for autoimmune, we generally use the vials for that.
Okay, so it would be sub-Q, which is easy enough to do for most people, unless they're needle phobic. Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is for lung cancers, you can actually nebulize the vial too.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, let me ask you this, because I happen to have a number of friends who have either COPD or pulmonary fibrosis. Can they nebulize GcMAF for that?
Yes, they can. Yep.
Okay. I'll pass this on then. Okay. And what about, just in general, because I know PK, I hope you don't mind me mentioning, but PK's been dealing a lot with osteoporosis and back pain and neck pain. And would this help her also?
It definitely could. And the reason I say it could is because if you think about it, when the body starts failing in one way or another, you really have to look at the immune system and think about the onslaught that we get just through food, through the air, through everything. And what I would say for that, though, first, because, again, I'm definitely not in the business of people just buying something to buy it. So what I always say is a nagalase test is really important because, again, if your levels are normal, then there's no point, honestly, in wasting your money on GcMAF because then you have to start looking at other things.
Right.
So I kind of do this process of elimination is what I call it because, again, the nagalase is such a good indicator to guide you because if we get high nagalase on somebody and they haven't even been to a doctor for cancer, we always say, listen, let's now, do a viral panel. Let's see if it's a virus. Well, then if it's not that, then unfortunately you know that cancer is starting and you have to go down that road.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But at least you have a direction, which you don't before that.
Yeah, that's right. Because, part of the problem that I see on a daily basis, because I talk to so many patients, is that a lot of this is just willy-nilly. There's so many things out there to choose from. And yet, what is the protocol? It's like so difficult. It's like, do you do the parasite cleanse first? Do you do that along with the GcMAF? But that's where you come in because you know the right way to address all of these things to get the maximum results, which is phenomenal. So how can people get a hold of you to enlist your aid with all of this? How do people find you?
Either through my website, which is Our Little White Barn, or they can email me. And do you want me to give my email?
Please, yes.
So it's Candice, and that's C-A-N, D as in David, I-C-E, M as in Marie, and Bradstreet. So Candice M. Bradstreet at gmail.com.
Good to know.
Yes. And again, you have a great TikTok account. Is it under your name, Candice M. Bradstreet, also?
It actually isn't. It's under the Practical Nutritionist because the reason I call myself that is I've learned a lot through the years. I learned a lot through that journey with my husband in cancer. And my job is to support people no matter what they choose. And I want people to understand this, that unfortunately in the natural world, there are some that literally will reject people if they choose to do chemo or things like that. That isn't my job. My job is to help you. My job is to get you fortified. My job is to get you as strong as you possibly can be to get through whatever you choose. Because, again, I don't want somebody telling me what I can and cannot do. That's removing a choice. So my job is to support them. And that's why I call myself that, because I'm not going to look at you and say, well, if you're not going to do it this, and this way, I'm done with you. I don't think that's a very kind approach. I don't think it works very well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a personal journey, and everybody has to make up their own mind on how they want to address it. Yeah.
They do, and I have to tell you, when you do that and you treat people that way, they are so much more open to hearing and possibly changing and seeing the other side. And, you know, so I just find it's wrong to do that to somebody. And, you know, it also opens it up an opportunity to really educate people.
Yes, it does. You're right. Well, Candice, thank you. This has been an amazing evening, well spent with you, and understanding all of these aspects of what GcMAF is doing and can do. And again, our condolences to you and your family for everything you have gone through, and your loss of Dr. Bradstreet, you know, who is courageous and started all of this for us here in the United States. But this has been great. Thank you so very much for coming on the show. It's been an honor.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And honestly, it's a pleasure and honor to be with you guys. I really appreciate it.
Well, we're going to have you. Yes, we want you to come back and share more success stories. We want to hear more success stories. Yes, we've gone over time because it's so delightful to hear from you, and we're learning so much. But we will have you back. And in the meantime, everybody, you now know how to get a hold of Candice and how to follow her TikTok account so you can learn more about all of these great, great things to keep you healthy. So until next week, everybody, we hope you be safe. That hurricane's coming up the East Coast. But in the meantime, we will see you on the Blue Highway. So, yeah, we'll see you swimming on the Blue Highway. But until then, also, everybody, really, take care of yourselves. And we'll be back with another great show next week. So, see you soon. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural.